to order week 9 Senate. Let's move on to roll call. Ariel, take it away.
Okay, so for roll call today, if everyone can say something that they're doing to manage stress this week or some practice of wellness, given that it's week 9. Okay, so I'll start with Jenna.
I did some yoga this morning, so that was really nice.
Willa.
I have been journaling before I go to bed.
Rachel.
I have been reading tons of light novels and staying up way too late, but it's definitely great.
Udita.
I've been going on walks with my friends.
Christina.
My sister and I have been getting up at sunrise every morning this week, starting our day on a positive note and an early one, I guess.
Izzy.
I flew home, so that helped.
Theo.
I've been going on walks with my sister. Also, Christina, that is precious. I think that's adorable.
Angel.
My roommates and I did homework outside today. It was cute, like the vitamin D was nice.
Abby. Well, I just realized I skipped over Meg. Diego.
Sorry, what are we saying? I just got here.
Just something that you're doing to wellness related, week 9, whatever.
Oh, okay. I played basketball with my roommate in the backyard.
Afani. Vanessa.
I am a big coffee addict, so my mom and I have been trying different coffees.
Carmen.
I went hiking with a friend last weekend, so that was fun.
Sam.
I've been running a lot.
Awad.
Watching Community on Netflix.
And Emma L.
I've been doing CrossFit workouts with my family.
KJ.
I've been watching a show with my brother.
And then Grace.
I went to bed really early last night.
Cassidy.
I've been watering my plants. Simple things.
Zakia. Emma F.
I have been going to my friend's house and working out with her.
Annika.
Like others, I've been going lots of walks.
Olga.
There's a Starbucks across the street from where I live, so like once a week I just go walk and get a drink.
Pal.
I like to listen to podcasts about things that aren't important, like pop culture and silly things.
Melanie.
Going through Spotify and finding new music.
Mario.
I went on a picnic yesterday to do some homework. It was nice being outside.
Awesome. I hope everyone, is there anyone I didn't call? For us to start with that.
I don't think you called me.
Oh, Rose. Thank you.
Yeah. I've been doing homework outside.
Awesome. Well, everyone take care of yourselves and good luck this next week, one more week.
Yeah. And let's move on to the invocation. Can I have can we have someone read out the invocation for us?
Read it.
Oh,
sorry, Zakia.
May we, the Student Senate, have the wisdom, patience, and guidance to be responsible representatives. May we be fair in judgments, enlightened in our discussions, and ethical in our actions. Go Broncos.
And can we have someone to read out the land acknowledgement statement?
Yeah, I'm happy to read it, Justin.
Go on.
We pause to acknowledge that Santa Clara University sits on the land of the Ohlone and Muwekma Ohlone people who trace their ancestry through the Mission Dolores, Santa Clara, and San Jose. We remember their connection to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respect to their elders and to all Ohlone people of the past and present.
Thanks, Wad. Okay, moving on to approval of previous minutes. Wait, hold up. Here we go.
I move to approve the previous minutes.
Second.
Motion from Annika, second from Theo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Previous minutes have been approved. Let's move on to approval of the agenda. So sorry for taking so long, but we have two people coming in to speak today. Dr. David DeCoste, he's here with us right now, and Jennifer Merritt. They're here from the Ignatian Center. I'm sure they'll go into that. And then for new business, we have two things. We have the RSO dissolution bylaw. We're going to be introducing it this week, and hopefully voting on it next week. And the academic accommodations resolution. And then as for old business, we have the LGBTQ task force, and that will be going up for a vote today. And yeah, are there any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion from Theo.
Second.
Second from Sam. All in favor say aye.
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 The agenda has been approved. Yeah. Dr. David DeCoste and Jennifer Merritt, the floor is now yours. You guys have until 7:30. I know, like I said, 7:05. I just want to make sure you guys have your full 20 minutes. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Justin, I don't know that I can share my screen.
How about now?
Okay, great. Okay, great. So first of all, thank you so much, Ciara and Justin, for having us today to your meeting. And we've got a presentation here. And what I want to note is this material is coming from the Jesuits' kind of world headquarters in Rome. And this is going out to all Jesuit institutions around the world, the content we're sharing here. So we're sharing it specific to Santa Clara, but the basic idea and the background of what we're sharing is that the Jesuits, global Jesuits, have identified 4 kind of practices that they see as essential to kind of forming the mission of Jesuit institutions around the world in this decade, 2019 to 2029. So we're a little late introducing these things to the Santa Clara community, but that's the decade that we're talking about. So if you could think about what we're saying as this is the way kind of the global Jesuit order is sort of understanding how is it, by what set of core practices should our institutions like Santa Clara University seek to connect kind of the life of the university to its mission. And this is what they have to say. So these are called, the practices are called the Universal Apostolic Preferences. So let me put that out there and move off from there. Okay, excuse me. So here are the 4 preferences / practices. First of all, to show the way to God through the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, and the process of what's called discernment. Second, to walk with the poor, the outcasts of the world, those whose dignity, oh, I'm so sorry, my bad. Let me jump back. Whose dignity has been violated in a mission of reconciliation and justice. Third, to accompany young people in the creation of a hope-filled future. And fourth, to collaborate in the care of our common home. Okay, so a little context here. Where do these come from? A number of places. First of all, they emerged from what was called the mission, or they didn't emerge from it, but they arrived to us in the context of what was called the Mission Priority Examen, which was a study of the entire Santa Clara University, completed in 2019, that identified these 2 priorities as the chief kind of outcomes of the study, that we needed to work out a clear articulation and broad communication of our Jesuit Catholic mission and character, and that consistent with that, we needed to work on deeper education, engagement, and formation around our Jesuit Catholic mission and character. All right, so another point of context here, these Universal Apostolic Preferences arrived to us in the context of our mission, our long established mission and vision. Our mission is to create an academic community that educates the whole person within the Jesuit Catholic tradition. Our vision is that Santa Clara will educate citizens and leaders of competence, conscience, and compassion, and cultivate knowledge and faith to build a more humane, just, and sustainable world. A final point of context. So the Universal Apostolic Preferences emerged out of the context of the worldwide Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, and their mission. And that mission is fundamentally described as a mission of reconciliation and justice. So the preferences seek to make concrete this mission, which the Jesuit head of the whole Jesuits, Father Arturo Sosa, describes the mission as a response to the Lord's response to the cry of a wounded world. So these preferences, Pope Francis was specifically consulted on these 4 preferences, kind of asked, do you think these are the preferences we should emphasize in the next 10 years? And he emphasized and he responded that yes, he approved the selection of these 4. The preferences also emerged out of a multi-year process of consultation within the Society of Jesus, both really in Jesuit institutions around the world and over the years immediately following what's called the Jesuits General Congregation 36 in 2016. That's a once in many year meeting of representatives of Jesuits from around the world. So there's a lot that's gone into these preferences, and a lot of thought, a lot of care, a lot of reflection, and the like. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of stop in a sense and note we're talking about a preference. What's a preference anyhow? So we use the term preference, I think, in a different way from the way it's being used in this material. So Father Sosa, the head of the Worldwide Jesuits, emphasizes that these preferences are not priorities, they're not a program, they're not even an outcome. Okay, so preferences are being used not in the way that some of you, if you're taking econ or finance, talk about consumer preferences. It's not the way we're using them here. More specifically, Father Sosa says the preferences really are orientations, signposts, a call. He also emphasizes they're not just about what we're doing, taking on another program, but they're really about our being, who we are, our entire life, both individually here at the university and in our university community. He also emphasizes the connections of the preferences to spirit, both small s, so all of our sense of spirit, small s, but also capital S in Christian terms, to the Holy Spirit. All right, kind of building on that, and this is a little technical, kind of ethical language of sorts, but I think it can be really helpful to think of these preferences as virtues, and I'm using these all more or less synonymously here. Virtues, good habits, practices, or character traits that connect our affectivity and our action, our being and our doing, our interiority and our exteriority. So in a way of thinking about it, I think we could say that if we wanted to know what the practices are that an individual or the community at Santa Clara should be engaged in to manifest the mission of our campus in the next 10 years, it's these 4 practices that would manifest that. Okay, I just want to look at each one briefly. So the first preference, to show the way to God and through the process of discernment. So this is spoken of often as the most important. And really, I think this is an invitation to all of us, whether one is a committed believer in a God, a Christian God or otherwise, to really reflect on kind of our disposition toward discernment, toward a life in the Spirit. So this is really this crucial aspect of that. And this is really asking also, how do we in our community and how will we at ASG and other entities on campus incorporate a process of discernment, kind of a more spiritual reflection in the face of big decisions into our decision making? How will we do that in the next years? The next preference is to walk with the poor and the outcasts of the world in a mission of reconciliation and justice. I would just like to note here that it's very clear. We speak at Santa Clara often, and rightly so, of a mission of social justice. This document does not deny that, but the language it uses is specifically a mission of reconciliation and justice. So these 2 concepts are paired together in some way and at the core of what this preference is about. The third preference, to accompany the young in the creation of a hope-filled future. I think this, to my mind, emphasizes many things, but I think perhaps something to focus on is this connection between creation and hope. So I think of you all as the great young people, especially to whom this is addressed. How is it we can foster even more among all of you a spirit of creativity as a way to really help create this hope-filled future? And finally, the last preference, to care for our common home And this preference, our common home here, is a reference to the earth. That reference is taken from language that Pope Francis used in a major document from 2015 called the Laudato Si, in which he speaks of our vocation to protect the earth, not as something ancillary, an option, an outlier in what it means to live a moral life, but really, in fact, essential to what it means to live a moral life. So this preference speaks to the importance of all these things we're doing on our campus now related to sustainability and beyond. All right, I will go over to Jen for a few slides and some more perspective on how we're already engaged in some of these preferences now. So Jen.
Thank you, David. And hello, Associated Student Government. Nice to be with you tonight. So my little piece of this is really to relate some of the ways in which the Universal Apostolic preferences connect with some things that are going on at Santa Clara right now that that have to do with our values and our mission and the way that we realize that as part of the vision of the university. So just for starters, the Universal Apostolic preferences, I think, have a strong connection to our work on anti-racism and on restorative justice and reconciliation. So the second through the fourth really resonate with the notion of creating an anti-oppression and anti-racist culture and practice at Santa Clara. Father Sosa says, attention to structural change, intercultural realities, political democracy, Indigenous persons, and abuse within the church is key. And this connects back to this work of anti-oppression as we consider that racism is ubiquitous in our society, right? And it's present and has been on our campus in different ways for a long time. And the idea here is that when we can recognize this and when we can see it, then we can turn our attention to structural change. In other words, we can make a conscious choice to try to reverse this. And we do this in a lot of ways, very practically, with training, with formation, with reflection together on what's going on, and then trying to really change the way the culture of our campus when it comes to this kind of oppression. And it really also refers to this notion of when we think of racism as being ubiquitous, there's this author called Beverly Tatum who wrote a book called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And she said, structural racism in our society is like a moving sidewalk at an airport. It's moving along and you might think that you're not participating in it, but if you're standing on the sidewalk, as everyone is, you're moving along and you're being part of that system. And she says, one by one, we have to turn around and walk the other way. And if enough people walk the other way, then there'll be enough momentum to really reverse this in our society. So that's a connection that I think of when I think of structural change. Another piece is the desire to cultivate a spirit of cultural humility on campus and beyond. And cultural humility is another way of saying respect for human dignity. So we talk about cultural competence and cultural humility. And when we talk about competence, we often are saying, well, I want to be competent in that I want to understand things about different cultures so that I can be thoughtful in the way that I engage with people from different cultures. But cultural humility is really about not making a generalization about a culture, but really wanting to know one individual person and to see them and to hear them and to share who you are with that individual. And Father Sosa says, young people live in the tension between the impulse toward cultural homogeneity and the emergence of a human society built on the sort of intercultural encounter that represents diversity, respects diversity, and is enriched by it. Excuse me. And then finally, there are some connections between the Universal Apostolic preferences and Santa Clara's move toward restorative practice as a way of proceeding. The Jesuits use this phrase a lot, way of proceeding, like how do we conduct our lives? And what is restorative practice? Well, that's when we identify where harm has happened, and then we want to have conversations in order to repair that harm and transform our community. And here, Father Sosa says, we're deeply convinced that these preferences will help the apostolic body of the society if they clearly align our life with our mission. It's more than just about doing something, but rather the real transformation of our personal lives. And so, we're working at Santa Clara to try to create little communities of restorative practice so people can have an authentic conversation about what their experiences are. And together we can try to repair any of the harm that has been caused, and particularly as it relates to oppression based on race. Okay, next slide, please. So the other point I just wanted to mention kind of on a practical side is, how do we find these signposts of the universal apostolic preferences in our work and then discern what would be a collective call? So in other words, the preferences offer us this opportunity to reflect on a question that has to do with our mission. It's how do we move forward with a process of discernment, as David said, that's, reflecting spiritually on where we're going in our lives. And how do we do this individually and collectively in a way that will really allow us to live out what our mission is? It's teaching and research and service that supports care for the whole person. And sometimes when we talk about cura personalis, care for the whole person, it implies that it is the faculty and staff caring for students, which it is, of course. But it's also all of us caring for each other, right? I just watched you caring for each other in your invocation. I thought that was so beautiful. And that's the kind of care for the whole person that we're asked to pay attention to through the signposts of our universal apostolic preferences. So, the Jesuits have something called the Examen, and it's a way of reflecting on the ways in which the joys and the sorrows of our lives can lead us to a greater future. And so you could consider that using the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius, that's the first universal apostolic preference, using those spiritual exercises helps us to achieve the other things, caring for young people, improving our world, the sustainability of our world, and also walking with people who have been harmed in our society. And the way that we might consider praying the beginning of the spiritual exercises, this examen, would be to say, well, we welcome the light. That means, the inspiration, the breath that we have in our hearts, and welcome this as a way of beginning our discernment. And then practicing gratitude, considering all of the things here in our life at Santa Clara for which we are thankful. And then also at the same time, considering these spaces of consolation and desolation. That means, where have we experienced joy and sort of deep peace? And then where are there disconnects? Where are we feeling uncomfortable? And how can we listen to both of those things and then look for a way to act that'll bring us and our whole community into a space of feeling more consolation and more peace together. And so that's really what this is. It's listening for an invitation to realize our mission and our vision as a university as we are in community with one another. So I'm finished with that part. I just want to say, I think you all are a beautiful community. I would love to know you better. And I think David has a few other ideas on how we might do this together.
Yes, thank you, Jen. And sorry for the PowerPoint glitch on my end. So folks, I want to say this, and I'm going to add this little ad lib here when I think about the preferences and say the work of ASG. I kind of wonder if there's a way in which, the preferences might become, as Father Sosa says, sort of signposts, points of reflection to ask, like, how is the work of ASG, how are what we're doing, our practices, how do they reflect the preferences already? How do the preferences challenge what we're doing right now? I think they might be a great way to sort of frame the engagement of ASG in the years ahead. So these are a few other ways of engaging them. Father Sosa has this letter from 2019 it's a letter it's a bit of a misnomer. It's a very rich document to ponder together. That might be a good conversation piece. Doing presentations, Jen and I are available for further discussion if that helps to you all. This year, big happenings here. So in May of this year begins the 500th anniversary of the conversion of St. Ignatius of Loyola. And with that, the beginning of what is being called the Ignatian year. That is when in May of 1521, St. Ignatius was injured by a cannonball at the Battle of Pamplona. And the cannonball moment in his life was kind of the beginning of his conversion. So I know Father O'Brien is going to be giving a talk in late May to inaugurate that year, in a way reflecting on what is our cannonball moment right now? Like what is the conversion asked of all of us, both personally and as an institution? I also wanted to note that the preferences emerge out of the Jesuit and Catholic tradition. But if we think of them as kind of virtues inviting practices, I think they can become a wonderful way to communicate across religious traditions, non-Catholic, non-Jesuit, of so many here at Santa Clara, and those of no religious tradition, in effect asking, among yourselves, among other students, what are the beliefs, what are the practices in your tradition that are like the preferences? Let's have conversations about those. I also wonder if there might be opportunities for great student creative work around the preferences. And we're on the brink at the university of hiring a new vice president for mission and ministry. And I am sure that person will be tasked with picking up this work on the preferences and carrying it forward. So I know our time is short. I fear we've gone over a few moments and you guys have a packed agenda tonight, but we really so deeply appreciate having a few minutes to lay these out. They certainly may inform things that happen the rest of this year, but they certainly will inform things that happen in the next years at the university. So we really wanted to get this information out in the spirit of opening up conversations around this. So I will leave it there and maybe back to you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I guess at this point, are there any questions or comments? I think it'd be really good if we could have a discussion on this topic. Let's start with Angel.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to speak with us and for your time. I just wanted to speak or ask a few questions on the ways in which Santa Clara University as a Catholic Jesuit mission has sort of approached sustainability beyond just starting these conversations about how we ought to be more sustainable. I think there are major critiques of the Catholic Church or in the Christian tradition in general for fostering anthropocentrism and actually being responsible for a lot of the ecological devastation that we see in the world today with like Western proselytizing and such. And there are just a lot of problematic aspects in which we've been implicated in this. And I think as an institution, we ought to acknowledge that. But I was just wondering, beyond simply starting this conversation, does the Ignatian Center have like a clear-cut sort of statement or just path for fostering more sustainability and like accountability within that?
Sorry. So, the Ignatian Center is charged with supporting the integration of faith, justice, and the intellectual life. And we have a variety of programs that do engage with sustainability. So for example, a couple of years ago, we sponsored something that was like this 2-year symposium on supporting the common good in our common home, meaning the world. And then faculty were invited to apply for grants. And then they, in small groups, they had conversations about key topics related to justice in the world. And then they each did projects that together that would promote justice in that area. So there was a whole group specifically on environmental justice. And then there was another on racial justice, gender and justice, and economic justice. And I think they all have some connection to sustainability, but the environmental justice group actually now has become this movement that is part of the AJCU, and there's a kind of a national presence for it. And it was started by people from our own environmental sciences and studies department. So I'm like so impressed with them. And so they've had a few symposiums here. They bring people together from all of the universities in the Bay Area to address environmental justice issues. And they just wrote a new strategic plan to promote environmental justice across the country and in key areas like water and air and all of these different things. And then of course, the Turn initiative is connected to that as well. They collaborate, but they're two separate entities. So that's just some of the ways in which the Ignatian Center has supported this. And then within some of our other programs, like the ones I run in community-based learning, we've had some environmental justice projects there in our own neighborhood. So like an air quality initiative that we've done with residents from the greater Washington neighborhood of San Jose. So that's just some of it. But I think as we move forward into a new strategic plan with the university and the Ignatian Center, which is going to be part of a new division, that should probably be a key pillar. So anyway, thank you, Angel, for that question.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to respond also to the question, Angel, more kind of, as I understand the question, I mean, there are no plans as part of this initiative that are standing for any sort of, kind of formal apology for Christian malfeasance related to the environment in past centuries. I think it's a very reasonable question. I think there's a lot of progress that's been made there. But I think more importantly, in terms of this presentation and what this is about, so the preference here, the fourth, is to collaborate in the care of our common home. Father Sosa is specified, we're not so much talking with the preferences about a specific outcome, even this preference leads to an apology. I think that kind of causation is not what this is about as much as it's about saying, what if everyone here entered into the spirit and practice of collaborating in the care of our common home? What would come out of that? Maybe an apology does come out of that. But I think it's more a question, an invitation with the preferences of saying, let's pause on outcomes for a second and focus on who we each are, what we're doing, what our practices are, and what our commitments are. And let's see where those things take us individually and as a community.
Thank you.
And I guess last comment, Pao.
Yes, this I want to be brief. Again, thank you for coming and speaking, and kind of going off of what we've been talking about with sustainability. I want to talk more specifically about how students can reconcile that the university continues to invest in fossil fuels while also wanting to accompany the young in a creation of a hope-filled future and caring for our common home. I find that a lot of students have trouble reconciling those two goals while continuing to invest in fossil fuels. Also noting that in Laudato Si by Pope Francis, he notes that everything is connected, including the economy. So I just want to know if the Ignatian Center has any thoughts on this or any plans in helping students reconcile that, but more specifically, why we are continuing to invest in fossil fuels, noting that it has been kind of disapproved of in Laudato Si.
Just speak on behalf of the Ignatian Center. I don't think the Ignatian Center could really speak on behalf of the university at this moment in time. We are about to become the Division of Mission and Ministry, and we will have a vice president, and that person may be more in a position to make that statement. But the Ignatian Center and the Markula Center are not as connected to the investments of the university. David, I don't know if you want to get into that a little bit further, but
I appreciate the topic. I know it's been a point of conversation at the university for some years. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens within the next 5 years, the divestment. But again, I don't mean to dismiss the substance of the question at all. But in terms of this presentation and what these preferences are about, again, They're not about a specific outcome like that. Does a preference mean there must be fossil fuel divestment? It's really about how can we foster among everyone at the university a practice of collaborating in the care of our common home. And if we did that in a true communal setting, so not just environmental studies, people already committed to that stuff, everyone on campus, how can we foster that? If we did that, what then would the outcomes be? So I think it's important, in a way, I think it's important not to say that certain outcomes that are either happening or not happening utterly block engagement with the preferences. I think the preferences are inviting us to engage in practices that could well lead to those outcomes, but in the sense of these practices being the real path of transformation. So I hope that's clear. I don't know if I said it as clearly as I wanted to, but that's what these are about.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak with Senate tonight. Can we get a round of applause for our speakers today?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Justin and all of ASG, and let us know if you want to sound us out about anything else.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Okay. Sorry that took so long. Thank you, Angel and Pao, for your amazing contributions to that conversation. Let's move on to new business, starting with RSO dissolution or the bylaw amendment. Carmen, can you share your screen?
Yes, I will share my screen. Okay, can y'all see my screen? Perfect. Is that a yes? Okay. Yeah. So thank you guys. I just wanted to preface this by saying that this bylaw is in no way trying to seek retribution. It is just to hold RSOs, all RSOs to the same standard. And basically, I've been working with Judicial on this week, and this is basically the idea, but the plan is to kind of like hear what senators have to say and then vote on it next week. But I'd love to hear questions, comments, concerns at the end. So basically, based off of what happened on, week 1, we kind of encountered the obstacle that RSOs need to be, if they want to be dissolved, they have to be dissolved by the RSO itself. And so ASG cannot do it. And so I found that problematic because ASG has the power when in consultation with CSI, Senate has the power to approve RSOs, but we don't have the power to dissolve them. So I thought that would be a good idea to kind of give ASG a little more power in that sense. So basically what this would look like is that if an RSO, and this is not an individual person in an RSO, this is the RSO as a whole. So the RSO, their account, their social media account, whatever they do just under the university. So it's separate from like an individual member doing something that violates anything in the student handbook. So once an RSO does something like this that would violate the student handbook, any ASG member, not just Senate, could propose with hard evidence suggesting that this RSO committed a violation. They can submit this, make a presentation to CSI, the Office of Student Life, and the Vice Provost of Student Life, which in this case would be Jeannie. And within 1 week of the presentation of this ASG member, CSI, OSL, and then Jeannie would have to endorse or reject the dissolution. And so we would need a majority. So if one party does not approve it, then it could still move on. After that, after the proposal is approved, and the ASG member would present to the student senate, and then like a hearing sort of scenario, and then the student senate would have to vote a supermajority, so that'd be 2/3, to approve. And then after that happens, and then the ASG member is going to have to present evidence to Senate. And then once that happens, the RSO is going to be able to present their case to defend themselves. And then once the RSO is dissolved, if approved by a supermajority, then they would have to wait between 1 and 4 years to reapply to become an RSO. And then at the time of the dissolution, the RSO, the student senate would have to decide like if they have to wait between 1 and 4 years. And if any case the RSO wants to appeal, Judicial will handle that. Yeah, so basically that's the idea behind it. And then I sent it. I apologize for sending it late. I think Justin sent a version of it last week, and then I presented it this week and made changes. But it's in the Slack for now, and then I can also drop the link to it in the chat. And then Robbie, I think you also had some comments as well, if you want to go ahead.
Can you all see me? I can't tell if I'm on the camera right now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Carmen. Yeah, so Carmen can reach out to me and just work on this a little bit. And I'm reading some of the chat on the side with what Ted's saying. We realized as we were working on this that this is a much bigger beast to tackle than we expected. So there are a couple of ideas that we're still floating around with. We're going to work on those and might bring those up, or judicial might have some amendments to this later on. But one of the big ones that we are considering right now would be taking this into more of a 3-tiered system, where this first tier is that approval process that a member of ASG comes in and gets it passed through, like Ted saying in the chat, with CSI and OSL, and make sure that they approve of that. Then it goes to Senate to make sure, I'm sorry, judicially handle if the RSO got folded. Justin, you're actually touching on what we're kind of getting to right here is that that's what's happening is then maybe Senate would handle the like kind of like an indictment process where they make sure that they agree that that's a problem, and then they would send it over to judicial to be written down or to handle that hearing part of it. So I'm at a little bit of I think I'm disagreeing a little bit with what Ted's saying, but that's an idea that Carmen and I are toying with. We definitely just want to hear your thoughts on all that in total, not just this bylaw, but it will stay pretty much the same way. There'll just be some more steps to it. That's all I got.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Or any like preferences?
Yeah, we're not voting on this week, just to be clear. So hopefully next week we're just kind of like taking questions, comments, and concerns right now.
I guess I could say I could vocalize the feedback I put in the chat. Could you add the clarification between the difference between an RSO and a member, or an officer of the RSO?
Yes. Yeah. So basically this, I think Judicial was talking about how they fear that if an individual does something that's on the board of an RSO, and then the whole RSO will be implicated, and it's not the case. We want to make that distinction that if an RSO, oh, thanks again, Ted. But if an RSO as a whole does something that violates the student handbook, whether it's, and we're still trying to define that to be more specific, but if it's an RSO as a whole, makes a statement, supports something, does something, not an individual, because we don't want an RSO to be dissolved just because one member did something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, so as long as it's is it going to be documented? Like, are you thinking like putting it up there, or like in like an appendix form?
We're still, yeah, I don't know. So to be honest, so an appendix form, yeah.
It'll be completed next week. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback? Kia Cooper, great work, Carmen. Ted, yes, excellent work, Carmen. Yeah, thank you so much, SAC and Judicial. I guess we can move on unless there are other, let me check the. Perfect, let's move on to, let's see, to the academic accommodations resolution. Melanie and the COVID task force, take it away.
Cool. Thank you. I just dropped the link to the resolution in the chat if anybody wanted to follow along, but I'll share my screen so y'all can see it. Awesome. So this essentially is asking for more academic accommodations during the time that we're learning online. And so we have gathered a lot of feedback from various student groups, and we've split up their requests into 2 pools. One of them being demands, which are barriers to students learning, and then another group would be suggestions that would just enhance the class experience. And so just taking into consideration that we are still learning in a pandemic, and that we are in different spaces that may or may not be the most optimal for learning, that people have different situations that they are in. So just extending that grace to our students is very important and something that we are trying to emphasize here. So scroll so you can see both the demands and suggestions, but the recent addition to the demands, since I know some of y'all have read through this last night, and thank you for your feedback, is that there was there are students who mentioned that their grades, they have an upwards of 40% not in the grade book yet, whether that is through professors not submitting grades yet, or because their finals are worth a huge portion of their grade, that they don't feel comfortable choosing whether or not to pass or not pass the class until the end of finals week. And so since I still don't know the reasoning for that, we also have a comment here of whether or not we should add in a line that states to not have finals be a major portion of the grade. But there was also a suggestion, oh yes, thank you, Fuad, that grades should be more focused on the amount of effort that's put into it rather than the output or outcome of the work. So if y'all have any suggestions, please do share them. This is hopefully to be passed tonight so we can share it with the UPC's Academic Affairs Committee. They are meeting on Tuesday, so Tuesday of week 10, and so this will be shared with them.
Juan?
Yeah, just a question about the suggestion. Is that still the pass, no pass until the end of finals? Is that still under discussion as to whether number 4 will be as is, or whether it will be replaced with what is in the suggestion box? Sorry, I may not have been clear. Is number 4 going to be the not having finals weigh a lot in grades, or will it be both pass, no pass, and less weight?
Got it. That I honestly was not too sure of and would love some feedback as well. This is a piece of feedback that I got from Max Medford, who is the student representative on the Academic Affairs Committee. So this was very recent. So it's a very recent addition that I'm still waiting on an answer from. And he said he would bring this up bring up this piece of feedback at the Academic Affairs Committee meeting. So would y'all suggest that we put in both, just one, neither? Hopefully not neither. I think they're both very valid pieces of feedback.
Personally, I think the weight is something, I think the weight would be more impactful. I think if both are implemented, that would be ideal. But if the conversation was centered around which on its own was like more likely to be adopted and maybe even welcomed by faculty more than what is currently typed on number 4, I would say reducing the weight of finals, but just one opinion.
And another conversation with this is what that percentage should be, because if we demand that finals not be worth like quote unquote big part of their grade, how do we define big? And so I've seen professors where half their grade is the final and another set where the final might be only 15% of the grade. So that is also another a conversation that I hope that the faculty members will be having, which, oh yes, another fun piece of information that I received is that a guideline for how online learning will look like. Those guidelines are currently being drafted by Kate Morris, and I believe they're hoping to implement them during spring quarter. And so a handful of these suggestions will be in there, but that is also just something to keep on your radar as well.
Yeah. Melanie, if I could just clarify and get some advice, are we hoping to pass this tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Olga in the chat said other possible suggestions: allowing students to have one unexcused absence for a sync Zoom class, have a grace period for select assignments like papers, dropping the lowest quiz/assignment score. Ciara, do you have a question that you would like to ask?
Yes, but I'm trying to follow bylaws to make Robbie happy. So can you do it the right way?
Should we like get the entire? Okay, let's do this. I would entertain a motion to suspend the standing rules so that Ciara Mosadias, our lovely president, can ask a question.
I move to suspend the standing rules.
Second.
Motion from Annika,
Second.
second from Carmen. All in favor say aye.
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 Perfect. Ciara?
Well, sorry, I know that was super extra. Robbie always private messages me saying that I need to follow the rules. So anyways, I just wanted to ask like Melanie and others directly, like, I know you've been working with Kate on this, but I'm curious, just kind of like, obviously they want this feedback, but also like, given how extreme they went with like actually offering pass, no pass when a lot of us didn't think that was possible, I'm just curious what the vibes are in the sense of like us, like they've already done so much for us and now we're coming to them with all the like these other demands kind of thing. And I think this is only coming from like, obviously admin hears a lot about when students are upset, but like when students are happy, we don't necessarily communicate that. And I think that's just normal. But I'm just curious kind of how we can navigate that, because even if Kate is really like nice about it, I just feel like it's an important line to navigate.
Yeah, I think that's really important to consider. I guess from the vibe check, it seems like a good handful of administrators and faculty members who are involved in the drafting process are on the same page about being able to set that standard of teaching during online learning. And then in regards to what is being requested, they are not structural, well, besides the pass, no pass demand right here. All the other things are things that professors are able to do. So aside from the core curriculum that they have to stick to, everything else within the syllabus, things like attendance, how much the way their finals, how they're grading, are things that is completely up to the professor. So the hope is that they'll be able to take that into consideration and not see it as having to go through lots of hoops to make this possible.
Okay, good. Just something to be mindful of, especially with every resolution. I think admin are very, like, they read between the lines, even when it's like specific words, like Anne and I had an experience where they were like talking about the actual like word choice. And I think it's just important to be extra mindful with any of our resolutions with everything. So, but yeah, thanks Melanie for your work.
Justin, the demands are like, there's a demands and then there's a suggests. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Annika. Yeah, I guess with that, I would entertain.
I move to vote.
Motion to suspend the standing rules.
Actually, Annika has suspended it earlier, and she had just said suspending the standing rules. So I will just say that they've been suspended, and we can move on to a motion to vote from Annika, or
Second.
Second from Theo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Before we vote on this, I just want to clarify, Melanie. Are we gonna add a number 5 to this with another input not having like the comment, or are we gonna resolve that before we vote on it?
That is also something that I was hoping to bring up before we vote.
Okay. Let's take a,
If anything, this could serve as like a memo because I personally don't feel comfortable putting in a percentage there without consulting students of what they feel comfortable with. But if you all think that you have a solid number in mind after chatting with your constituents, then that would be great. But if anything, we could always just send this over with this piece of feedback attached.
Okay. I think in practice, how is that going to work? Or actually, I think it'll be fine if we send it over as a Google Doc and then leave it like that. Okay. And with that, let's do a roll call vote. Ariel, take it away.
Right. Jenna,
Aye.
Willa,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Rosie,
Aye.
Udita,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Izzy,
Aye.
Theo,
Aye.
Angel,
Aye.
Meg,
Aye.
Diego,
Aye.
Vanessa,
Aye.
Carmen,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Wad,
Aye.
Emma L,
Aye.
KJ, Grace,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Zakia,
Aye.
Emma F,
Aye.
Annika,
Aye.
Olga,
Aye.
Hal,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Marielle,
Aye.
and then is there anyone that did not vote? Perfect.
I voted a yeah. I don't know what happened.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sorry.
So the resolution passes unanimously.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that, Ariel. Thank you, Melanie, Annika. I'm trying to remember who else I saw there, but just everyone who worked on this resolution. And yeah, let's move on to old business now with the creation of the LGBTQ plus task force. Cassidy, take it away.
Hi guys, sorry I'm on my phone right now. I'm double zooming, so I'm very busy. But basically, nothing has changed about the resolution, and I'm kind of just excited to get the resolution off of its feet. If you guys have any questions from this past week, let me know. But other than that, like nothing's really changed, and there's definitely a lot of interest in the task force, and excited to get it started for the spring if it passes.
I move to vote.
Wait, can you share your screen with the resolution first?
I am on my phone, so I do not believe that I can. So sorry.
For some reason, I thought being on your phone. Never mind. I'll pull it up.
It's in the chat, Justin.
Thank you. Sorry, this is taking so much longer than it needs to. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's start over. I would entertain a motion to vote.
Well, first of all, motion to vote. Second of all, we cannot see your screen. It's just a line.
Oh, thank you for that. There we go. Actually, before we move on, sorry about like now that we actually have this like on the screen, does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, okay, perfect. I would entertain a motion to vote.
Motion to vote.
Motion from
Second.
AJ, second from Theo. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed. Yeah, let's move on. Let's do a vote. Ariel, take it away.
Jenna,
Aye.
Willa,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Rosie,
Aye.
Udita,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Izzy,
Aye.
Theo,
Aye.
Angel,
Aye.
Meg,
Aye.
Abby, Diego,
Aye.
Stefani, Vanessa,
Aye.
Carmen,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Hawad,
Aye.
Emma L,
Aye.
KJ,
Aye.
Grace,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Zakia,
Aye.
Emma F,
Aye.
Annika,
Aye.
Olga,
Aye.
Hal,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Mario.
Aye.
Perfect. And is there anyone that has not voted? Perfect. The motion carries and the resolution passes unanimously.
Perfect. Congratulations, Theo and Cassidy. Let's move on to Senator of the Week. Does someone want to take it away? By someone, I mean Hawad.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think everybody's going to be very excited about this week's Senator of the Week. I would describe this senator as very active and consistent and responsive and a really skilled student leader and someone who's just a joy to collaborate with, certainly a gift to our organization and body, but also to every, participatory body they are in. And I want to congratulate the following senator for their outstanding work this year, and that is Annika Kingsley. Woo! Annika's worked on the Athletic Relations Task Force all of this year and has been instrumental on bringing up issues with diversity and athlete mental health, being part of the Student Safety Task Force, hosting these epic watch parties never before seen or heard of, helping out with Workout Wednesdays and signing on a bunch of resolutions. And yeah, we're just really lucky to have Annika. And this is a really fun slide. I got some time to prepare it, so I really went all out. So congratulations.
Annika, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just want to say that my motion was rejected 3 times, but it was.
Sorry, Annika. It's okay.
I'm kidding, but thank you, Hawad, the best leader out there, and these pictures are great. Bottom left is when I was doing a debate for student government in high school, so that's actually really funny that you found that, but yeah.
Yeah, and as for everybody talking about the logo, we're just experimenting. We've been using all of winter quarter to try out some different designs. So let us know what you think. And by us, I just mean me. Nobody else has been doing that. But Annika, you want to use this opportunity to shout out the Workout Wednesday thing? I tossed that on there.
Yeah, that's basically all Melanie, honestly, but if you fill out the QR code there, you have a chance to win these workout bands, resistant bands from a Black-owned, fitness company that Melanie partnered with for one of her school projects. And we partnered with APB as well to get this event out there. So definitely just fill it out. It's super easy, fun. And then we'll also have a workout for you guys to do eventually. So yeah.
Perfect. And with that, we can move on to roundtable remarks. Does anyone have anything you want to bring up, to talk about, discuss? Any big problems? Any? Sam?
Yeah, I'm just going to plug in the warm lines once again. So if you're interested in volunteering, please reach out. There's information on the Slack, but if you want more details, I'm happy to chat with you about that.
Angel?
This is just an update from way back when we were like a bright, young, green, new ASG, but an update on the work study resolution from like a while ago. They have officially announced that they're going to be replacing all of work study awards with financial aid gift aid awards. So that's awesome, as well as an expansion. This is a federal thing to the SNAPS program. So now students are eligible for food stamps. So just an update on that.
Ciara?
Hi all. I just want to thank you to most of you who came out to the ASG town hall yesterday. I know not many students came, but ultimately I think we had a good conversation. I wanted to plug two things that I already brought up yesterday, but just in case some folks weren't there. One is the adjunct lecturer, Robbie. The adjunct lecturer situation. Basically, AFLOC, which is their like committee, is now like going to do an in-house vote to unionize, and this has been something they've been wanting for about 3.5 years, or at least advocating for. And so that's really awesome that the school is giving them that opportunity. But the con is that because it's an in-house vote, they have to form their own contract, and there's been reports of the contract on the university side being like written up in a way that it's kind of, it has voter suppression measures as well as some other things that are not so good. And the law firm that is kind of on the university side, not the adjuncts lecturers, these are different sides. University side is like more anti-union and like union busting law firm. So because of that, there will be members of AFLOC coming to speak next week at Senate, and this will be really important. And also Pau and I, and if anyone else is interested in writing a resolution for a fair election, just let me know, but we're hoping to get that out next Thursday. Secondly, we talked a lot about CAPS yesterday and kind of where we go from here. Anne and I are really in the mood to just kind of put it all out there in terms of what we need from CAPS. And I don't know if that's requesting for a full review of CAPS, kind of like an audit, but that will be coming all of your way spring quarter as kind of a campaign to revamp CAPS, whether that be more formal as a letter of no confidence or something else. And I'm going to plug my feedback form that I did for my capstone, only because if we really want to make this big and have students' voices heard, I think it's incredibly important for everyone here, no matter if you've used CAPS before or not, to bring up your student stories and share with your friends. Because right now we have 55, and I'd love to get to 100 to really amplify student voices who've either not enjoyed CAPS or enjoyed CAPS or didn't go to CAPS. And this is kind of an ASG project capstone situation that I've been doing the last quarter, as you all know. So yeah, thank you. I know that was long, but just two important things.
Wad.
Just two quick questions for Ciara's two important things. One, I'll go the quicker one first. Do the responses on the form go to you, Ciara, or other folks as well, just as we spread it?
The responses go to me and then 3 members of my capstone, but it's only us. And we have a like question that asks, if we were to post this like anecdote or testimony on an Instagram account, would you like be okay with that. And so there's also an option about like publicizing it beyond, or if it's only just for our personal review. So right now it's just for us.
Okay, word. Thank you. Second quick question was,
Mhm.
how exactly can this law firm that's on the side of the university sway the vote? That may not be a quick answer, but
I mean, from my understanding, it's just that it's more so what they're doing. To give more context, the adjunct lecturers put forth a contract that has an agreement contract thing that basically was Georgetown's that allowed them to unionize. So it's like the same thing that like got that through Georgetown. So they took that, they offered it up to the university. The university's law firm looked at it, scratched a bunch, marked a bunch of stuff out, crossed it out, and proposed new ideas. And so I think in terms of swaying, it's more so just like their power to limit the power of the adjuncts and lecturers voting. And one example of voter suppression measures would be asking for a majority of adjuncts and lecturers total. So this includes like quarterly adjunct lecturers that may be not even at the university this quarter versus those who are actually present in the room during the election. And just as we know, during actual US elections, we are not looking at the count of the majority of the United States. We're just looking at those who actually came out to vote. And so that was one instance, as well as verifying signatures, which professor adjuncts and lecturers are confused how they would even verify signatures and why that is necessary. And yes, what Pao said.
yeah, that's all sounds very egregious. Thank you for sharing, Sarah.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get more content next week. But I think it's just they want student support, and that's what we're here for.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up for roundtable remarks? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Theo.
Second.
Second.
Second from Rosie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good job, y'all. Sorry for the extended Senate.